Last Pint Productions presents the New Way podcast. The New Way contains adult content, including cinema classics, Interrupting Offspring, and the Georgia Bulldogs. Go Dogs, sick 'em, woof woof, woof woof. Sorry, Casey. Listener discretion is advised.
Forget the myths the media's created about the White House. Truth is, these are not very bright guys, and things got out of hand.
Proud men have risen up against me. Men of violence seek my life.
Look, I appreciate your position, Mr. Webley, but you can't go around chopping down other people's hedges without permission.
I suppose.
Yes, I suppose.
Would a spy pee himself, huh? Everybody wants to be naked and famous. Everybody wants to be just like me and naked.
Will you help teach me about this? What is it? A new way?
Hello and welcome to the New Way. I'm just watching Nick eat. Are those blueberries? What are we eating over there, Nick?
Pistachios?
Oh, they are blueberries.
Yeah, they are blueberries.
Yeah, I'm watching Nick eat blueberries. Welcome to the New Way podcast, where Nick eats blueberries across the sea, and we can watch it in our little rooms
Across the Sea of America.
Across the Sea of America. Well, if you go around the other way, it goes over the sea.
Quite a few oceans and seas.
So
He means it like the Omen, the unrelenting sea of politics.
Exactly. Yes, the sea of garbage. Yes, this is the New Way, where we break down pop culture so you don't have to. We have Nick in LA, who is our co-host with the most on the West Coast. And in studio, we have our co-host who toasts while saying prost, Mr. Benjamin, middle name redacted, Wilson.
Wow, I like that one. Just
That's
because,
right.
Can that be canon?
Sure, canon. Canon for the New Way.
Canon.
I know, but canon. That's just funny that we have like we have canon in the New Way and non-canon in the New Way.
Well, we're almost at 100 episodes.
This is true. This is the 99th episode.
We're to the point where canon is kind of a thing.
Well, and as such, because it is the 99th episode, we have a very special guest in the studio right now. Ben's father, Mr. Scott Wilson. How's it going, Scott?
It's going great. Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Scott's a long time first time that we had a few of those in the studio in the life.
I'm sure you've had a few of those in the studio.
Listen, I didn't. Yeah, okay, that didn't maybe come out quite right.
I think so.
But yeah, Scott's been listening to the show. How long have you been listening, Scott?
I don't know. As long as you guys have. Well, I think
as long as
you went several months. In production, and then Ben finally fessed up that you were doing it, and that's when I started.
I think he started listening about 3 months after we came back with the new crew. In 2017.
With the Nick era.
With the Nick era,
yeah.
The new and improved era with our long lost brother.
I like to call it the listenable portion.
That's also true.
I like to call it the Cousin Oliver years, but that's just
differing
opinions.
The salad years is what I like to call them.
The tossed salad years.
Everybody needs the Steve Urkel or the nosy next door neighbor type, but I feel like I bring that energy to the show.
Well, and we said Scott's sitting right now in the Nick seat, and can you feel kind of Nick's presence over there, Scott?
I can, and Nick and I share a whole lot of things in common, and so I feel just right sitting here. So.
Excellent.
I wouldn't want anybody else to fill that seat.
When you have this great kind of the laid back, the Southern drawl. So I think we're going to I think we're going to all lapse a little bit into our more Southern Tombstone era voices for our podcast. Like Ben.
Right, there you go.
For sure. So one thing we did not get to last week before we want to no more cats thought I
have some more thoughts on cats.
We have listened to our audience out there. They would prefer if we could maybe take a rest for just 1 week from Cats Talk. So we're not going to be doing any cats.
Good thing that they don't host the New Way podcast.
But we had someone pass away before one of our last episodes. Mr. Rucker Hauer, famous for Blade Runner, although for me, more famous for the film version of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Where he played the head vampire alongside Paul Rubens.
Paul Rubens, yeah.
Which I loved him. But you cannot do a Rucker Hauer R.I.P. without playing his improvised and most famous line in the movie, but from Blade Runner. And this, again, completely improvised moment of him, his final scene in Blade Runner.
All those
moments will be lost in time. Like tears in rain. Time to die.
That's a poetic send-off. I think it was very nice to see a lot of very good things said about him.
By the way, I did find it really interesting that one of our friends, Nelson Lee, Nick, posted as soon, like almost an hour after that popped up, like on my feed. He posted on Facebook, in quotations, ... time to die. And then posted a sad face, and all of these people were like, "Don't do it."
So terrible.
No, I mean, like they were legitimately concerned. Like people thought that our friend Nelson was like the guy who was just in Mulan and is like in Athens, Georgia, right now, actually filming a show, was about to commit suicide when he was just sad that Rutger Hauer died.
He's just upset that there's no Mushu in the live action version of Mulan that he is in. So
there actually is.
I mean,
I think Mushu is in it.
No,
they famously said that it's not because it didn't fit with the real. I mean, there might be Mushu the food, but not the lovable dragon character played by Eddie Murphy.
It's a phoenix now. It's a phoenix.
Yeah, it's something different though. There is like something.
It's a phoenix.
Okay, there's a phoenix.
It's the Phoenix instead of Mushu the dragon. It's
Is the Szechuan sauce going to be in the live action remake?
Man, we got a lot of. Also,
are they bringing back the McDonald's Szechuan sauce?
That's what I'm talking about.
I know that's what you're talking about.
I
know you're talking about the Rick and Morty. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Come on, man.
Give me some
credit.
We've been receiving a lot of feedback on the show. No more than I think ever before than on the food episode, which seemed to be. Ooh, look at that! Nick's holding up his a Return of the Jedi mug with some Ewoks on it.
Vintage Burger King.
There you go.
That?
Yeah, that's the competitor of the Szechuan sauce makers. How dare you? They're going to bring us. We're just cross promoting all over here. But we had a lot of feedback on our last episode, the food episode. Some people were upset that we left out certain moments of food that they thought should have been talked about. But really, the main winner of the episode seemed to be the sound bite from Beth, which has been now requested by, I believe, 6 different people separately from one another.
I question their motives.
I mean,
I really do.
So we've built up over the years a lot of sound bites, and you guys have come to know some of these. There's Ben's famous.
Any more treats?
And there's Nick with his
Nerd vote, motherfucker!
And there used to be another one with Beth.
I love it!
And that was a great one, but really what everyone really loves is...
Designed to penetrate gently but deeply into a horse's body, working places not easily reached with massage, lasers, or other methods.
And then I also realized last week, Ben, because I accidentally did this when I was testing the board, that if you play that over the Rutger Hauer speech, it also sort of works as a great final note for his character in, so...
Designed to penetrate gently but deeply into a horse's body, working places not...
Okay. But,
That's pure chaos.
We had a lot of feedback on that episode. Definitely more than I've heard on anything else we've done. So that again
My poor wife
was well. That also was an episode recommended by Helgi. So guys, keep sending us more topics and things you want to hear us talk about on the New Way. So now, because we have a guest in the studio, Scott, we're going to put you on the spot just a little bit and kind of give you some questions and get some response from you, just so our audience can kind of get an idea of who you are and what you're going to be bringing to it. So
it's all good.
The first question is the most obvious. Are the Dogs going to be national champions this year?
Oh, that is huge. I don't know. We a lot of people think we have a chance. There's some trap games out there. Texas A&M comes to Athens, but
and we'll be there for it.
You guys the Wilsons are going to be there cheering live?
Oh, we're going to be there for it.
We'll be there for that, and I'm working on my Notre Dame tickets as we speak. So, if I get a text and get distracted during this thing, then I'm bartering for Notre Dame tickets.
If it means Notre Dame losing, I'm all about whatever happens there.
No,
we'll do the best we can. Look at Nick.
Nick's got his Georgia Bulldogs hat on.
Go Dogs.
Or Joe Change.
Yeah, just so those of you out there know, you're familiar that Ben is a big UJ fan. He gets that. I'm saying fully from Scott. You actually have a daughter. You have a daughter named Georgia who is currently at Georgia.
Well, no, she's graduated.
Oh, she's graduated. She's graduated.
Jane is still at Georgia.
Okay, but you had a daughter that named Georgia that went to Georgia.
Yes,
absolutely. It started as a joke because my wife and I couldn't agree on. We knew we were having a daughter. We knew we couldn't agree on a name. So as a threat, I said, "Well, listen, I'm going to call her Georgia after the University of Georgia," thinking it was tacky, which it is, but it's
called
stuck.
Georgia tacky.
But it's stuck, and when Mark Richt was coaching there, we met him.
Don't talk about that, man.
We met him at a function, and she introduced herself, and she said, "My name is Georgia Wilson, and my dad named me for the University of Georgia." And he looked at me and he said, "Is that right?" And I said, "Well, yeah, kind of." And he went, "That's sick."
That is it's funny. I didn't even put this together until now. Ben had at one point talked about naming one of your offspring Raven.
That was a joke. But,
yeah, a joke.
Y'all hear that?
Well, that's the way it started in my house.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't ever have seriously named my daughter Raven.
What's wrong with?
But
that's so Raven. Why wouldn't you do that? I mean, that's whatever. But now, Scott, what was the first time in your life you regretted giving Ben his middle name as your name? Was there a time that you got so upset with Ben that you're like, I really wish I'd not giving you my namesake as your middle name?
First time.
No, but Ben, we never heard Benjamin Scott Wilson unless he was, really in trouble, which wasn't all that, frequently. It was more, during his college years. But
or you yelling Benjamin Effortless Wilson because he was just so good, such a good child.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, I'm proud he carries that name on.
Okay, all right. Now, growing up,
fall into the trap. Scott did not fall into this trap.
Although, how long did it take you to realize that you called me BS?
Yeah.
How long did it take me that your initials are BS?
Yeah. Well, it fits.
My dad's like 36 years.
Yeah. It fits a little bit.
A little
bit. All right.
Now, did you when Ben was growing up, did you watch a lot of movies or TV together? Did you have stuff that you kind of bonded over?
Yeah, and I've got to say, we took Ben to his first movie when he was. I was trying to do the math. He was born in December, and Ghostbusters came out
in June of 1984. So that was probably 17 months old.
Okay, so. We take him to Ghostbusters at 17 months old, and we walk in there with a kid and and everyone's looking at you going, "Oh shit, don't do that to us." And Ben watched the entire movie, without blinking almost, and I think he was hooked from there.
Yep.
And I've always been a movie junkie, so it's something we've gotten to share through the years.
Well, and one thing I'll just throw in really quick is because when I was in my very, very young formative years, I was into like kaiju movies and like monster movies and comic book movies and all those types of things too. And my dad would always say, well, you need to watch this important movie. You need to watch this important movie. You need to watch this important movie. And one of the things I maybe didn't always do in my life, but I did in most of those cases, but I took my father's advice. And I watched a lot of movies that I don't think I would have seen, like The Paper Chase and Being There and, Psycho. I still remember the first time I saw Psycho was on my dad's recommendation before I even really knew Hitchcock. And, yes, so I had my early film education, the stuff that got me into really early, and even into independent film, A Woman Under the Influence. Like,
oh my god!
Yeah.
That was a movie I was hoping we would talk about tonight.
So
I don't even know. I don't know this movie at all.
It's extraordinary.
Is Cassavetes a Woman Under the Influence?
No,
unbelievable.
Oh, it's incredible.
I thought you were talking about a personal story, but
no. No, it's Gina Redner.
Don't give him that much credit, Ben.
Excellent.
Come on, make him work for him.
Come on, man.
Make them work for it.
I agree with Nick on this one. That was
softball.
Not accurate. Yeah, it was a softball.
But no, I was just saying that my dad actually, who I realized I think much later had really great taste in movies and really gave me kind of a nice guiding path, so I could find the stuff that I really liked. I mean, definitely by the time I was in high school, I liked stuff a lot different than my dad did, but I didn't. I had kind of a classical film education from very early on because of a lot of the movies that he introduced me to.
Now, Scott, did you guys have something you like specifically bonded over, or was there a movie you were really excited to show him, like you were waiting? Because I know Ben's got movies that he's waiting for the girls to see.
I can think of one.
Well, yeah, and I was about to say, I think our roles have reversed in life with movies, music, other things. But the whole Lord of the Rings, I mean, Ben turned me on to that before, and I loved Tolkien and read him in high school and college, but Ben had me really ready for that. And
before the movies came out.
Yeah, and we shared that. I mean, I went to
we
Return of the King on Christmas Day, and I mean,
we saw those movies. We both probably saw those movies like
the same
two or three times in the theaters too.
Exactly.
I think we saw it multiple
Right.
times. Yeah,
right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the one I would say.
Did you have any, like, when you were younger, were there
the
like...
one I could think of it was The Untouchables, which is
fantastic,
which we've watched basically on the podcast and talked about. Well, you guys talked about on the podcast. I sat here halfway comatose.
Well, there was a panther in the room. You saved two people's lives.
I left and went to Panther. Yeah, exactly. I went to fight the Panther outside. I went to Black Panther. I went to the Panther. But no, but The Untouchables, I remember that was one of the movies that once I was kind of able to watch rated R movies, very like right when I was first able to watch them.
7.
That's my upbringing you just described.
No,
I'm thinking more like 9 or 10.
Yeah,
but like 9, 10, 11. But you owned The Untouchables, and you let me watch that, and you said this is a really great movie, and I still remember I was like, this movie is amazing.
Let's talk about The Untouchables.
We're not going to talk about The Untouchables anymore.
Now, Scott, this is an important question. These are something we got to ask hard-hitting questions on this. So, bigger letdown that Ben didn't go to UGA or that he went to film school?
Oh, neither. I mean, well, in retrospect, neither. I mean, film school was awesome, and we enjoyed going down there. And what was the name of the bar down there? Big Daddy's. But,
infamous.
Yeah. I mean, neither. I mean, he walks his own path, so
Nick,
it's all good.
Did you see Luke's post today? Because you realize, it was 9 years ago today that Big Daddy's was essentially closed as a bar, and we played that night. We played tonight 9 years ago as Gadwell Lane, and Dirty Skirty closed that night out, and then we spent the rest of that night behind a dumpster drinking Four Loko.
Do you know what happened the day? Do you know what happened the day before that?
You came up here up there.
I met Nick Santa Croce.
Oh, it was 2 days before that. Actually.
2 days, yeah, whenever before.
Or 3 days before that. It
was
Wednesday night. I still remember. Was the first
now, Scott, you made it down to Tallahassee to see the infamous Gadwell Lane play. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
And other towns too. You saw us in Atlanta. You saw us in
Albany, Georgia.
Albany.
How do you feel that Nick stacked up as a bass player for the band? You're a big Queen fan, so did you feel that he brought some of that? Kind of that Queen stagger to the stage.
Wait, hold on one second. Before you, let me straighten something out really quick.
Played bass.
I think that first off, I think that my dad's favorite band's probably the Rolling Stones. I would say you're nodding your head. Yes.
Yep.
I didn't know that my dad. The reason why I brought up Queen in the past is I didn't know my dad was a Queen fan until friends of his in college told me that Queen was his favorite band, and then. Flash Gordon came out, and then he was kind of embarrassed about it.
No, but here's the deal. So I had a bet with a friend of mine in college, and if I won the bet, he was buying us tickets to the Stones, and if he won the bet, I was buying tickets for us to go see Queen. So
Win-win.
I lost the bet.
Yeah.
I lose the bet. I wasn't a Queen fan at the time. I go see Queen in '77 in Atlanta. And it was the most freaking unbelievable live show I've ever seen, and so I became a Queen fan right about then.
It's funny. I remember hearing the Flash Gordon story from Ben. We were leaving the movie theater from the watching the movie Ted, and there's the whole big Flash Gordon tie into it. And Ben told me like. Wow. As we're walking up the aisle, he was trying to call you. Like it had gone to like busy or it was going to voice or something. And he tells me that whole story, and I was like doubled over laughing in the theater. And then he got a hold of you.
That was secondhand too. That was from a friend of my dad's. So that, like I said, this isn't his story. This was a story that came to me, kind of roundabout way.
Well. Yeah, and it's crazy, and so I don't know. I don't want to speak outside of school. Pardon the pun, but is it okay if we share with our audience what your day job is, Scott, or would you rather?
Absolutely, sure.
Keep it. So Scott is the headmaster of Hogwarts of Chattanooga. At least that's what it looks like. It's the Baylor School in Chattanooga. Is the most gorgeous prep school. It looks like the prep school you see in movies like Dead Poet Society and School Ties with less racism.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
All right, so you guys are movie junkies. They were going to shoot Dead Poets at Baylor.
No kidding.
Yeah, but we had construction going at the time, so they opted. I think it was St. Andrews in Delaware where they ended up getting shot. But
that's crazy.
And we did shoot Daniel Boone or something. There's been at least one movie shot.
Wow.
Fess Parker.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. And you live in the headmaster's quarters, which is a gorgeous, gorgeous home overlooking the entire campus there. That you were so nice to let us into during the hurricane of 20. The hurricane, was that Ivan?
I can't remember.
The name of that hurricane.
That was Irma.
Irma. There, I knew it was an
or Hurricane Uma, according to you.
Well, Hurricane Uma can come through here anytime she wants. I'm just going to say that.
Now we're in Matt's territory.
All right, Scott, that's enough. There
he goes.
So can you, without naming any names or getting specific or into anything, what's the funniest thing you've had to call a student in for to reprimand them about?
Oh my God, funny.
Or terrible.
I think you should be able to take that back through all of your headmasterships and even maybe back to principal days or even coaching days.
Yeah, I mean any good anecdote works for us.
I have a couple. I mean, one was I was a high school basketball coach back in the day, and I had a kid who was really talented but incorrigible, wouldn't play, wouldn't do anything. We butted heads, and he was going to be the end of me. And one night at practice, my wife walks in the gym, and I walked over to the side. We talked for a minute, and I gave her a kiss, and she walked back out, and he went, "Coach, is that your wife?" And I went, "Yep." She went, "From now on, I'll do anything you want me to do."
Nice.
So. And the other one I was a perpetrator of. My senior year in high school, I hung a sign off of our arch rival's chapel and got in quite a bit of trouble for it. And
do we get to know what the sign said?
Being Macaulay.
It was Macaulay School, and I hung a sign off the chapel. It just said "We suck," and it's stayed up there a good. Long,
simple but effective. I mean,
it's an oldie but a good.
Yeah,
right. But we got in a lot of trouble for it. But it was one of those things where we got whipped a few times, and then everybody thought it was pretty cool.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And then he was a legend.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for giving us some good stories here. I think we're ready now to kind of dive in.
Matt,
yes,
before
sir.
you go on, Nick, you want to share with Matt? What the other thing we have in common other than I'm sharing this seat?
Right.
This is actually
That's
very
pretty cool.
It's
So
a
amazing,
very cool thing.
Actually.
We've both hung banners over rivals chapels, and
Nick hung a sign over Mar-a-Lago that says "You suck," and it's still to this day there.
I think the closest Nick has gotten to that is remember that time that Aaron and John stole all of that frat paraphernalia while we were playing in town, and they went through that girl's window in the dormitory. You don't remember this?
I don't remember that.
Okay, you were asleep.
Another one of those hazy memories.
Statute of limitations not up on that one. Nick's not saying a thing.
Yeah.
But there is I forgot when we actually realized the crazy, strange coinkydink of our weird connection. Because my birthday is December 17th. Nick, your father's birthday.
December 17th.
That's right. Which is kind of cool. But what's cooler...
My birthday is March 20th.
That sounds familiar to me.
Yep.
Nick, what's your birthday?
March 20th, the first day of spring.
So
That
I
is
have his dad's
insane.
birthday, and he has my dad's birthday.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah, that is one of the weirdest.
Pretty crazy.
That's a bordering on. I think something's bad. Wrong.
I think it's technically a squared, and then I don't know. I've never done the math, but it's rare.
The odds have got to be I'm sure you could probably ask a statistician what the odds. The odds are going to be probably pretty astronomical.
Yeah, I think. Do
we have any statisticians out there that want to chime in and let us know? Please, we would appreciate it.
Yes. What are the odds?
On December 17th every year, my dad is more excited to call Ben on his birthday than his own son.
Why should he call you on his birthday? Hey, Nick, happy birthday to me.
Yeah.
He's more excited to call
But I will
Ben
say,
on his birthday than his son on his birthday.
But I will say I can damn sure count on a call from Nick on my birthday rather than from Ben.
Oh, that's not true. I call you early.
I'm giving you a hard time.
Man.
No, but Nick...
Nerd vote, motherfucker!
Speaking of oldie but goodie, you
I gotta bring that one. I'm gonna bring that one back. It's Beth won't win out the entire. She's just gonna win 2019. Okay, she's got the Oscar this year. That is a really. I completely forgot about that
smart
anecdote.
Contribution, Dad. Yeah,
it's a weird thing to not remember, but I do forget about it until I get to those birth dates and there's all of these calls happening. 'Cause I remember the first time I heard about it, it was you're like, oh, my friend's calling my dad because it's his birthday. I'm like, oh, that's sweet. They're really close. No, it's weird. And I was like, okay, what's so weird about it? And find out why.
It's pretty cool.
It's kind of amazing. But so Ben, why don't you chose the topic this week? I know you talked about it with your dad ahead of time. So why don't you kind of lead us into?
Well, so knowing that my father was going to be in town, I figured one of the things, because like I said, I had such a great kind of formation in film, and my dad turned me on to a lot of great movies in an early age. But all sorts of different kinds of movies that kind of span the spectrum of genre. That were kind of all over the place. And so I thought the thing we could talk about is basically genre convention, and not that being our topic of talking specifically about the conventions of certain genres and what works in those genres, but movies that specifically act as masterpieces within the context of that genre. Because it's a subjective thing. I feel like our definitions of certain genres are probably going to vary some, and the reasons why we think movies work within those constructs are going to vary to some degree, which is where I think there's some interesting discussion. However, I think that there's a pretty good list of movies if you look through of movies that a lot of people, at least general consensus is, these movies are perfect sort of examples of their genre. And so I want to talk about what our favorites were of their respective genres. But also with the caveat, these don't necessarily have to be our favorite movies. None of the movies that I put on my list for various genres are my favorite movies in those genres. They're the ones I feel are best representative of those genres, and are movies that you can say, if you want to watch this type of movie, it's going to have all of the beats of that style of movie, of my conception of that style of movie. This is what it's going to be. And
I think that's a good point, because if we're talking about necrorealism, I'm not a fan of werewolf orderlies, but it's a great example of the genre. I'm more of a Father Frost's Dead man myself.
There you go.
But I think you're right. A movie can really do a genre well, and even if you're not a fan of it, you can step back and say, okay, that was definitely a noir film, like Brick. I didn't love Brick, but that is. Pretty perfect.
I love Brick.
Yeah, I love. That's on my.
I figured you'd probably get into it. So that's the
we had. So the tricky part with this is we repeat ourselves a lot in general. Anyway, there's no way around it. We have a lot of our kind of same things. So we repeat
things a lot in general.
That's a good point, Nick.
Touche.
That was a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. But no, so part of the goal was to try not to repeat. But I'll be honest, it's always difficult for me because I can think of. It was hard for me to come up with ones that.
Have you guys seen the new Cats trailer?
I almost put the terrifying music on the thing there because I still can hear that in my sleep. But no, I think like it. I still had to pick movies I like. I try to go a little bit outside just to like discuss things we haven't discussed necessarily, but I feel are good examples of these things. But I don't know that they're. It's hard for me to be like this is a perfect concrete example because most of the ones that are really perfect concrete examples, and for me at least. I've kind of gone over at some point. It was a little tricky, so we can debate that. Yeah, well, you're a little bit wider breadth as far as films, especially from your spectrum of how many years you're looking at your film. Like you're looking at 150 years of film, and I'm looking at 22. So like it is a little bit.
Just so you know, my dad said that he was going to go old school with us on.
I would love to hear your dad go old school.
So I think that we might have some interesting.
I think
because
we'll hear some things.
I don't think my dad will go into pre-code film like I might.
God, every time you say pre-code film, it just is amazing.
Sends a shiver down my spine.
I don't think
What the hell does that mean?
That means before there were ratings.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Scott. You just answered maybe the most burning question of lifelong fans of the New Way. Ben has been talking about pre-code since maybe
before
episode
there
4.
were talkies.
That's not true. Pre-code was pre-1934 when people started putting lascivious content into the moving pictures.
Oh,
all of those old trivs.
You mean like, when it got good?
The puritanical people came in and said, "We can't show this filth on celluloid."
All right, so I'm going to pick a number between 1 and 6. We have 6 genres to get into. Nick, name a number between 1 and 6.
1.
Number 1. We are going to start with action movies.
Ooh, action.
And let's let Scott. Do you want to kick it off, or do you want one of us to?
I'm going to let you guys. I'm going to let you guys.
All right, Ben. Why don't you kick us off?
Oh, with action.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to go very, very sort of quick here because the movie. The reason why is because the movie I have is a little bit more obscure. Yeah, you don't want to. Of course it is.
Go quick there.
You picked like one of the more obscure ones, and the reason why is it's a foreign film. But the movie I picked is a perfect sort of. I felt like had all of the things that action means. Is the 1988 film The Killer, directed by John Woo, which is a Hong Kong thriller movie. It's Chow Yun-fat and Jerry Hung. It's this very visceral. It's basically got all of the tropes. It's a hitman who has a heart of gold. It's the cop that is a good guy but can kind of see the other side of things. And it's all about it has all these amazing action pieces with just so much gun violence. And
he's
Woo,
an ex-cop with his own brand of rules.
Exactly. But so Woo was one of the ones with really kind of being credited as bringing about that kind of movement with guns where it looked like they were dancing almost.
Where they're firing 2 guns in the air at one another.
Yes, which became overly stylized and really dumb. But when it was still being done well with Hard Boiled and with The Killer, it was really cool and it was a new thing. And still action movies to this day still kind of emulate that, where it's this kind of sweet, very kind of sweeping movements. And also where Chow Yun-fat, who is great in that movie, makes it look so effortless. But it's got all of the tropes where he accidentally blinds a girl. And so then he has this heart of gold, so he feels like he has to protect her. So the detective comes in and helps him, protect her. But of course, that the hitman with the heart of gold has to die at the end. And it's got all of the sort of big tropes and huge action set pieces. It's so much better than any of the John Woo stuff that he did when he came to America, like Face Off.
Shut your mouth. No, John Woo's kind of one of the. John Woo literally pulled an Avatar years before Avatar, where he started parodying his own movies.
Exactly.
Himself, like
exactly.
he didn't have to do it. I think you bring up also a really interesting point when we go through these action movies here, that there was a definite shift between blocking an action scene and choreographing an action scene that happened throughout sort of the 90s. Woo might be kind of the one kicking it off earlier than that overseas, but really you see that shift from like Die Hard's a great action movie that's blocked well, but there's no choreography to what's happening on. Versus you look at John Wick, and that is all about
choreography.
It's a dance scene. You know, that's how it goes. What about you, Nick?
I'm going to double dip on this one.
Ooh.
This answer could also be an example of the spoof genre.
Oh.
But it only works.
No?
What?
I thought maybe it was going to be Kung Pao Enter the Fist.
No. I mean, that's not an action. That would be like a Bruce Ploitation movie, right?
Bruce Ploitation.
I like that you just. I hope you made that.
You made a whole new genre.
That's a genre. Anything post Bruce Lee that's kind of tapping into that.
Is that a real? Did you coin
it's
that?
Real. No, it's real.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's real. But thank you. It does sound like something I would make up, doesn't it? No, it's Hot Fuzz, and it only works as a spoof if the action is standalone. If you take the comedy out of it, it's still an action film, and it is. It's just very meta because at every turn they're literally referencing Bad Boys and they're literally referencing action films, and then they'll do a scene that actually is a send-up of a famous scene in the action film. But it has to be done well. It has to be a good action film for it to be a good spoof film. And actually, when I'm thinking about action and not picking Die Hard, literally the
it hurt
first
you,
thing that
didn't
popped
it?
in my head.
It hurts all of us, I think, when we don't pick Die Hard. My dad picked Die Hard. Hold on.
We all know Die Hard is the best action film. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but that was my second thought was Hot Fuzz.
That's amazing. I know, and I think and it's great. It really is such a good representation of
Matt,
that.
what about you?
I went with a similar movie that it's not spoofing, but it's real close, which is True Lies. And True Lies
it's one of my favorite action movies of all time.
That's good.
The reason I like I'm same with horror, same with anything else. I need a little comedy in a lot of my shit, right? I need to have that happen. I think it's incredibly well cast. I think Jamie Lee Curtis and Bill Paxton and Tom Arnold and Arnold Schwarzenegger all bring just their absolute A game to it, and it has amazing set pieces in it.
I watched that movie the first time with my dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 100%. Back in 1994,
I mean, it's a classic action movie that's elevated just enough up that you're like you don't feel guilty. I give it the Mary Shank test. My mom watched that movie and she's like, "This is ridiculous," but she sat and watched the whole movie.
Right.
She didn't get up and leave because she knows she may think she's above it, but it's good. It's good filmmaking.
It's good. Dad, what about you?
I don't know. I mean, I've been struggling with this category. I'm chock full of a bunch of other categories, but I didn't know if
no wrong answer, Scott.
I put down the French Connection. And,
okay,
not a wrong answer.
So that's a classic.
I've never talked
school.
about the French Connection on this podcast ever, have I?
So the French Connection and Mission Impossible. So
okay, yeah, both.
So the first De Palma Mission Impossible is actually a really good choice too, because it's in one way it's very subversive of the action genre, where it tried to put a new twist, like the whole silent scene where Tom Cruise drops down from the ceiling and the whole thing where they can't put the pressure on is a great sequence for an action movie, but it was completely that was never done at that time. Action was known for being big and loud. It wasn't there to be a 10-minute sequence where there was zero sound.
Right. They get there at the end when they chop that guy's head off on a train in a helicopter in a tunnel.
Oh, no. Well, they have the big action set piece at the end. I'm just saying.
I love the scene in the restaurant where he
Kittredge, you've never seen me very upset.
That's right. Exactly right. Kittredge, you've never seen me upset. And he blows up the fish tank. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. What were you saying, Nick?
I remember seeing the first Mission Impossible and thinking to myself, "Oh, this is same thing I felt when I saw John Wick. I felt, oh, this is the next wave of action films. This is what is going to be emulated. This is the new genre of action." I remember thinking that distinctly.
Which it wasn't for a while, which is interesting because I feel like the reaction on Mission Impossible is kind of mixed.
Well, the reaction is summed up perfectly by who shot the sequel to it, who's come up in the podcast a moment ago. John Woo aping himself so terribly.
And it's a terrible movie.
It's an awful movie, and you can absolutely see the execs going, all right, people went to this movie because of Tom Cruise. We don't care about the team. We'll bring back Ving Rhames. He's hot. Pulp Fiction was big. Let's do him. We're going to bring in John Woo. We're going to make this big, dumb, stupid action movie. And I remember everyone just laughed so hard at it. And it took them 3 or 4 years before Abrams came in and gave him a pitch and said, hey, go back to the TV show, go back to the team, do your shit, and get that stuff going. And Abrams rescued that franchise, and it's now maybe my favorite action franchise. I mean, Wick and Mission Impossible are...
Mission Impossible is the best currently running action franchise. Every movie somehow gets better. It's insane right now, in my opinion.
All right, Scott, a number between 2 and 6.
Oh, 3.
3. This is going to be the tough one because you picked a genre that is every genre almost in the history is this.
It's drama.
Drama. Lindsay's drama group.
I have like 40 films under that.
But of course, because the problem with drama is that drama is inherent in every movie. I mean, like if a movie does not have drama, it's either it's a performance piece if there's no drama.
Even Entourage has a character named Drama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
fun fact.
I think what I was trying to sort of kind of subclassify when I said
there's also
drama,
a character called Turtle.
That's not one of our genres. Is it? What? Did we do turtle movies?
But I like Turtle.
I like Secret of the Ooze the best.
Nick would have been so happy if we were like, we want to name our favorite turtle themed movies.
I like turtles. But no, I think what I was trying to subclassify drama as are the dramas that don't fall into those other categories. The ones that are there, whether it's familial drama or whether it's relationship drama, movies that aren't a comedy, they aren't an action movie, they aren't an adventure movie. They don't really fall into those other things. It's more of just a human story.
Okay.
And I think that's what I was thinking about. And so, and you could have the
You're
argument.
not wrong, Nick, that is the quintessential number one drama that exists. I 100% agree with you on that. Schindler's List is the most exemplary candidate for drama.
I won't disagree with that.
Why, thank you, Matt. I agree.
Yeah.
I'll briefly, mine, the one that I came up with was Paris, Texas, which Paris, Texas is one of my favorite movies of all time. But it falls outside of my top 20 for a few reasons, but it's a familial...
It was rated?
It's a familial drama.
I legitimately came over to Ben's house back when you were living in Mike's house years ago. I think before the girls, maybe even before Sully. Just a random evening, like, hey, come on over. And Ben's just like, I'm like, what are you up to? He's like, watching Paris, Texas. Just hanging out. Got a couple of beers popped, just watching Paris, Texas. I was like, cool.
It's one of
That's when you knew this guy might be your brand of weird.
It's like Harry Dean Stanton, baby. Absolutely.
It's got all of the beats. It's a familial drama where it has a guy who is fallen apart and he's trying to put the pieces of his life back together. And
his name is Paris.
And it has the greatest, I think, one of the greatest drama scenes of all time, which is where Harry Dean Stanton goes in and talks to Natasha Kinski in the Pete booth, where she doesn't realize it's him for a while. It's a 10-minute scene. It's on YouTube. Watch that movie. It's in the top 10 scenes of all time, in my opinion. In any sort of drama movie, it's incredible. So yeah, that was my.
All right, what about you, Nikki?
Schindler's List.
Yeah, I mean, Schindler's List for sure.
Dad, how about you?
I think another really good example would be probably Castaway. You just have Tom Hanks for most of the movie having there's a little bit of struggle, but for the most part, it's the drama and the tension of being on the island. How's he going to get off? And it doesn't really pick up until the very end, after we've seen him just kind of acclimate to the island and carry the film on his shoulders.
Obviously, a dramatic.
You really don't know what's going to happen. You have no idea.
Obviously, a drama and a dramatic movie, but it's so close to being almost an adventure film, just because it's so similar to Robinson Crusoe. I don't know.
I don't feel that I don't think adventure is really.
I know it doesn't.
You could say shipwreck movie. I mean, I think that could be. I'm dead serious.
No, I agree. I would not. If I was telling someone, hey, go watch this, this swashbuckling adventure movie where Tom Hanks
But then again, that
crashes in a plane and opens packages for 2 hours.
That comes down to our definition of the genre, because my definition of adventure
wrong.
well, okay.
Thanks, Scott.
Touche.
I appreciate that. No, I think that's an awesome
Best
choice, Nick.
FedEx film.
Well, so in high school, for any of the high school kids listening out there that I went to high school with, there are 3 general conflicts that exist in. What is going on?
I like how you had
I didn't mean that I was talking to kids in
for
high
all
school.
you high school kids out there.
Not general.
I'm going to clean this up right now.
All right. For any of Scott's students, let me learn you something here. No, there are three conflicts that exist in storytelling: man versus man, man versus nature, man versus society. Man versus nature is absolutely Castaway. That's the entire movie.
Sure.
I think that's a good choice, Nick. I like it.
Okay.
And it's Hank scene.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dad, if you can distill it, or a couple, if you can't really distill it down to one.
Well, I mean, I had 40 movies under that.
We can get to 36 of them.
Kramer versus Kramer.
Kramer versus Kramer is on my list.
Wow,
an
I knew it.
extraordinary movie.
I knew it.
But I'm going to give you an old school one.
right.
The Verdict with Paul Newman.
Oh, such a
is
good movie.
An extraordinary movie, and that's one. If you haven't seen it, you need to go back and take a look. But it's man versus himself. It's a guy fighting his own demons, and it's really an exceptional movie. I don't know. I'm a Goodwill Hunting.
Listen,
I think that's one of the best movies.
You're talking to the right crowd here.
if you want to know what the first movie that I wanted to put on my list was 100% Goodwill Hunting, because it's a perfect screenplay.
And then I would have made fun of you for it.
Yes, I know. I mean,
I love that
right there.
film, and to make my kids watch it, that's an exceptional movie. And then a movie we talked about at the opening was A Woman Under the Influence. Which if
what is
you
this
haven't
movie
seen
about?
it,
What is this movie about?
So it's about a woman who it's starring Gina Rollins and
Gina Rollins was married to Cassavetes.
John Cassavetes, right? And
He's got this. Don't worry about it, Ben.
And that movie's about a woman who slowly goes insane, and it's one of the saddest. There was a disclaimer on the film says if you are suffering depression, don't watch this movie or something. I've never seen anything like it, and I mean it is really a dark, sad movie.
They used to love that in a lot of the older films. They used to like that sensationalized, like this movie is going to scar. There is a big challenge.
It's not like The Tingler. It seems kind of like a legit first wave of trigger warnings.
Cassavetes is considered one of the modern fathers of independent cinema, and it's entirely because of movies like A Woman Under the Influence, because it was completely subversive and didn't really have the narrative structure that a lot of other movies of the time really had. But it was entirely a character study, and it involved this amazing character performance. And Gina Rollins got nominated for an Academy Award that year. But still, actors to this day, whether they be, I think, Mary Elizabeth Winstead or Kate Hudson, they all consider her the greatest living actress.
Okay. And then his son went on to direct The Notebook. Exactly. And that's a pretty good drama. I mean, in fact, that actually is my drama. No, that's not my pick at all.
And I'm not sure this film fits in this category. I mean, like I said, I had a lot, but All the President's Men is one of my
phenomenally
top
good
10
flick
films of all time, and
mine too.
And
another one you turned me on to.
And it's drama, but it's real. I mean, it's history, and that's why it's so important to me. And I was a young person during that era, and it was, really an exceptional endeavor, and they exexecuted. So I love that film.
We brought it up during our docudrama episode a while back because I think I think that All the President's Men is a perfect movie almost. I mean, it's for what it's trying to do, it's insanely good.
Yeah, and when I think kind of. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
I'm fairly certain I went to a screening of All the President's Men, and Aaron Sorkin did a quick Q&A.
No kidding.
And that was one of his favorite movies ever. I'm like 90% sure.
100. That sounds
that
perfect.
makes perfect sense
because
Right.
it's such a smart dialogue, and it's the whole thing's dialogue driven. And if you watch some of the scenes between Dustin Hoffman and Redford, I mean, it's just rapid fire, just complete kind of intellectual, sort of.
Are there any tracking hallway shots?
No, they didn't do a lot of that back then, but yeah, it is kind of amazing.
There's a
I know
scene
they
in the
didn't
Library
have
of
the
Congress when they pan back from the two guys pouring through all the stuff. I mean, these guys changed modern history, and had it not been for these two guys, the world would be different. And so there's a scene where the camera pans back from these guys looking, studying, going through all these cards at the Library of Congress. It's really extraordinary. And
they actually shot at the Library of Congress.
Yep, absolutely.
That's crazy. Well, so I went with, on my side, I feel that most great dramas tend to be somewhat ensembles, or at least a bit of an ensemble involved in them. I think a lot of great dramas breed into these group things. The movie I picked is technically an ensemble, but it really comes down to three major performances. And it is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which we've flirted with around.
My dad is pumping his fist in the air.
And the cast of this movie, you got Nicholson, Louise Fletcher, you've got
Scatman Jones.
No, I think it's No, I think it's
Scatman Jones.
No, I think it's Scatman. I think it's Scatman Crothers.
Scatman Jones.
No, it's Ben. I'm telling you, I looked this up. I got it right in front of me. It's
Scatman Jones.
No, it's Scatman Crothers.
Carruthers, Ben. It's
his
Carruthers.
Carruthers. I think
Scatman Jones.
Yeah, no, you were right, Nick. No, you're right.
It was not Scatman Jones.
It was Scatman Crothers.
Scatman
Doc Brown.
It's like a slot
I
receiver
legit
for
added
the
those
Titans.
sound effects like 3 minutes before the sound. I was like, because I was going through my list of things. I'm like, oh my God, I'm bringing him a movie with Scatman Crothers in it. But One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is based on a Ken Kesey novel that we read in high school. It is not the bare bones of the events that happen mirror the novel, but the novel is literally about schizophrenia and about drugs and counterculture. It's a very, very different entity on the page than it is in the movie. Nicholson is nothing like he should be based on what how the book is written. He's supposed to be this like big, tall, redheaded bruiser,
brawler,
like this brawler dude. Like nothing lines up, and yet the movie is perfect. You've got Louise Fletcher, who's just delivers one of the most chilling performances ever.
See, that's my thing. Is like that's almost horror for me.
Yeah, it's
because
close.
Nurse Ratched is so.
But I think the thing that
such a great villain
transcends is that I love that there is this glimmer of hope that comes out of all of this tragedy.
Sure.
But I mean, for me, so I love Nicholson, I love Fletcher in it. I think Brad Dourif's Billy Babbitt, his final scenes are so gut wrenching. Like when Nurse Ratched drops the bomb on him and he has this reaction, it is one of the few times I was watching a movie where my heart dropped into my stomach. I'm like, oh my God, she's ended this person's life. Like she's destroyed him. But that's to me, that's draw. I almost picked another one, but it wound up in another category instead.
Oh, I like it.
So, Ben, pick a number.
Is that why the kids are?
I'll pick number 5.
Ratchet?
No, it's not. I don't know. Is that
the origin? I think it's the origin.
Ratchet? Do you think that is? It can't be. Can it?
I don't think so.
It can't
It's
be.
absolutely not. 100% not.
Can't. How you know it's 100% not? That's right. And then you start to rethink it.
No.
All right, Ben, pick a number between.
I stick with odd. We've done 1 and 3. I'll go with 5.
All right, 5 is horror. Ben, what's your horror? And we don't need to bring up X's. We all know.
It's the only movie that is my favorite movie of the genre, and there's nothing else to say about it. It's The Exorcist. There's nothing wrong with The Exorcist. It's the perfect movie. Okay. It's the perfect horror movie.
Were you giving a thumbs down or a thumbs up, Scott?
Absolutely, thumbs up.
Okay.
Incredible. So, I work at a boarding school, and years ago, kids would bring up, slasher movies and stuff to watch at night. And I go, if you really want to get the crap scared out of you. I've got one for you. And they say, oh, yeah, right. And when I showed them The Exorcist, none of them had ever seen it. Scared the living shit out of them.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's an amazing film. And it's beyond scary. There's a lot more to it. So.
Yeah.
I remember walking around in D.C. and passing the steps and seeing it before I was allowed to see the movie. I saw it in real life. And my mom was telling me stories about how she really wanted to see it, and it was banned by the Catholic Church. If they found out that you saw The Exorcist, you could get, excommunicated. Yeah. It was a big, big deal. Especially the Catholic Church led the charge on that, especially. And you watch it now, and it's just, to me, anything that has to do with religion in a horror context is the scariest horror movie that you can make. I think still to this day. And just think about this. The premise is you talk about horror and thriller and all these subgenres, right? That is pretty much straight horror. Your daughter being possessed by the devil. What do? That's the most horrific thing you can think of, right?
No, and it's funny you bring up the location. Dr. Rick Bedoya, who called into the podcast during our many Game of Thrones episodes.
Hi,
Dr. Rick.
I love that. Dr. Rick, he went to Georgetown University, and he lived across the street from the Exorcist house his freshman, I believe his freshman year at school. And he was like, I'm across from the Exorcist house. I was like,
I'm moving.
I'm not done.
Yeah, I'm out of there.
I lived across the street from the sorority where Ted Bundy killed the floor of sorority girls.
Yeah, but that's real life, not horror. Oh, wait a minute.
I just thought that was a cool fact. I'm just name dropping the scene of a grisly murder.
Just name dropping Ted Bundy.
Yeah. Nick's just like, I just happened to go to FSU. It's where Ted Bundy was caught.
Hey, he went to UF2, guys. All right, it wasn't just FSU. He killed some people by ARC school too. Come on, he did. He made his way around a lot of Florida. Anyway,
just because he was on his way to Florida State.
Florida's easy. A lot of dumb people. So it's fine. So Nick, what is your horror movie? I'm assuming one that you've shown me, possibly.
Well, the carpet pattern is my wallpaper.
Oh, okay.
I got to go Shining. Go back to Nicholson. Yeah. Wow. Tap that well. I mean, the thing that scares me the most about, and why I think it's a straight horror film, is it doesn't hit you over the head with monsters or creatures, although it has that, but it plays with things that are intimidating physically and an enraged, knife-wielding Nicholson. Mm-hmm. Then it also touches on like really surreal horror. Things that don't make sense. You walk through a hall and into a room, and there's a window looking out into the beautiful Colorado sky, right? Only if you look at the construction of the hotel, it's physically impossible for that wall to be with a window. Little things like that, little mind fucks. The blowjob bear, turning your own like sexuality into something creepy.
That is really
the naked
that
woman.
Gets me.
For me, sex is scary too. Sex is scary in films too, and Kubrick was a master.
Wait till you're my age.
It's true. It's true. But like what he said, that beautiful naked woman, and he walks in, and then the turn. There's also something extremely horrifying about things that you want. Then turning against horrifying things. And just that movie is haunting. And I mean, Stanley Kubrick literally terrified Shelley Duvall to a point of hysteria.
He broke her. He broke her for life. It's crazy.
I have real, and I just saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood the other night, and I had my qualms about seeing it because Quentin Tarantino's kind of problematic for me now, and
there's way too many feet in that movie.
Stanley Kubrick's so problematic too, but it's like that's one movie that'll be really hard for me to ever totally disavow. It's just too good.
It has. There are things that are so good that they transcend the terrible people that might have been involved in them, which is kind of amazing.
I didn't really like Once Upon a Time, by the way. Have you guys seen it yet?
I did.
No.
I
still have to see it.
I thought it was very old school Tarantino. I think the transition between second and third act is way too slow. But overall I enjoyed it. I think it's just fun for me also just to watch DiCaprio and Brad Pitt like play off of one another as two of the biggest movie stars in the world. and just like kind of just having fun doing a movie together. But we'll get to talk more on the next one.
Who else has to go with horror? Though?
I gotta
so
finish
you have to
out
go with
horror.
horror, but right when you finish up, let me make one thing before we go to the next.
I'll let you know when I finish.
I was endorsing your choice, but I've got a couple ideas.
Oh yeah, let Scott go.
Definitely. We have to let my dad.
Well, let's get Scott go first.
Okay.
Are we talking horror?
Yeah, horror.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah,
that messed me up, and I can barely watch it still.
So hold on 1 second.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Scott.
I think it's a suspense movie. I've made this argument before.
Thought you might.
Psychological thriller is my vote.
I think it's a suspense movie.
Okay. Well, really.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think that
I'm proud to move it to that category, but
I think it's an educational movie about transphobia, which is a genre that should be spoken about more.
What would you do with No Country for Old Men?
Suspense.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought about that, by the way. You were way on with that one for suspense, but I don't quite see horror.
Suspense and psychological thriller are different, too. I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is 100% a suspense film. That's what the whole film is.
That's interesting.
Predicated on creating suspense and tension throughout the entire movie.
I thought it was interesting that you gave horror and suspense in the same as Ben chose the six genres for us. I think it's a little tricky to go between them, but yeah, sure. I think you're right, Nick. I that's a really interesting point to call that movie a suspense. I think you're not wrong at all.
Well, I'll give you an old school one then. Altered States.
Oh,
that's a horror movie.
Yeah, that's a horror movie.
Okay.
No arguments here, Scott. You're safe.
All right.
Oh man, I'm not going to sleep tonight. That one gets me in weird ways.
It's also a very different horror movie than your typical slasher or your typical, it's a subversive, super intellectual. Another movie that my dad recommended to me, of course, that I showed to all my friends in high school. But yeah, that's a good one because it's a horror movie. It's a slow burn horror movie that when it gets to the horror, it does it really well.
Yeah, and the only other one, I mean, there's many others, but Bram Stoker's Dracula. I just, Gary Oldman is so freaking good in that.
And Keanu Reeves is so bad.
I don't know.
It must really suck to be Winona Ryder in that movie, to not be either the greatest or the worst in it. You're just there. Like you can't reach the extremes of a Keanu and a Gary Oldman in one movie.
Well, luckily she went on to Stranger Things and became the clear-cut worst thing.
Oh man! Wow. All right. Well, we've already lost Jon Favreau. Now we've lost Winona Ryder. So thanks a lot, guys.
Winona Ryder, but she's so egregiously bad put up against.
I don't think she's that bad.
Damn, I'm really worried about the criticism I'm going to get after I leave here.
I
never have him.
What
back.
I love about this is a lot of other feedback I've gotten on some of the episodes. Like, man, Ben really hates the Lion King. Like, really upset. So I think Nick's now going to be on the Nick really hates Winona Ryder. I think they kind of like it.
I love Winona Ryder. I think that she's really bad in Stranger Things. Right? You not agree with me?
I kind of liked her the third season. I did not like her the first two seasons. I thought they finally gave her something fun to do in the third season, and she's better because she's having more fun working with David Harbour.
I didn't like her in the second season, but I liked her in the first and the third.
I did not like her in the first. She just it's just too much, too crazy. She went full Ryder. She can't go full Ryder.
I think overall, between 3 seasons, we dislike Winona Ryder. We're on the same page.
I said I liked her.
Ben liked 2 out of 3. I liked 1 out of 3. You liked 0 out of 3. So average is not so good.
So cumulative, we're not looking so great.
Horror was a difficult one for me because I wanted to go. We've talked about Cabin in the Woods, which is way too comedy and high concept to really be true horror. And we've talked a lot of other ones. I thought about doing Jaws, which I think is a great horror movie by accident.
Hey, is The Thing horror or sci-fi?
That's horror.
It's mostly horror with a little sci-fi. I think a lot of horror is a little bit of sci-fi in it. Not everything, but a little of it.
Sorry, just want to get your take real fast.
Actually,
that was the one I didn't want to bring up. I wanted to come up with something different than what I was going to because I thought The Thing was too easy and everybody was going to bring it up.
I'm going to give you a really polarizing question, Nick. is The Exorcist sci-fi or horror?
Horror.
Sorry,
I see where you're going there.
but it's sort of you get the idea. So I really racked my brain in this one. I wanted something that felt very horror to me. It was also something I wouldn't necessarily gravitate to, but I wound up really, really enjoying. And I picked 28 Days Later, Danny
good.
Boyle, and I'm not a big zombie guy in general. But what I liked about that movie is that it was all character based things with these great kind of zombie gross out beats in between. But I loved what they did with the third act, which changed apparently a lot of times in production. But I like that the examination toward the end of that is how quickly we're becoming monster. Like way before Walking Dead covered any of this territory poorly. It was done much better, I think, in that movie where you've got they
100%.
finally find civilization, and it's these guys are just they're way worse than the zombies, to the point at which they unleash the zombies on the men to take them down. And I think it's a really effective horror movie.
I love.
Also
that
has some nice hope at the end.
Yeah, I love that choice. The hope was
cool
the one
thing-
that they went back and reshot.
Yeah.
A cool thing about Boyle's take on a really good genre film is adapting.
Yeah.
And when you have a property, like we talked about this before, with zombies, you add something a little bit new. They made zombies truly terrifying again.
Yeah, terrifying.
Truly horror. Talk about horror. Now they can run as fast as you. That's a
Faster.
horror.
Yeah.
zombie.
Yeah.
And they're like super hypersensitive. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
That
It
was
was
crazy.
Like the mindless, skulking, slow ass zombies.
So-
It was between that and The Art of the Deal, and I thought, let's go 28 Days Later. That's a little bit.
So before we get to the next topic, and I know that we need to move along, so I'm going to say this really quickly.
we're okay. We're all right. We got time.
You got Ben's got to get to that second Democratic debate.
I'm recording it.
That's a horror show.
Hickenlooper.
Yeah. Anyways. This is what it sounds. It just looks like a loogie to me. Hickenlooper.
Hickenlooper.
And real quick, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm taking it off. Okay.
Listen, we're talking about horror. Let's do it. Come on, Nick. Let's do
All I'm
it.
saying is,
But
all I'm saying is they're clear-
He's talking. Let him talk, Ben. Give him a
Never mind,
chance.
the moment's gone.
No, do it. Say it.
All I'm saying is, aren't there clear-cut front runners yet? Can we just cut it to 4? Are they still taking applications? I see like another white dude on stage that I've never heard of before running for president. When is the cutoff? When do they cut out?
Can
the
we get you
Cinderella
up there?
candidates?
Is it too late to get you on one of these debates? Because I would watch it.
I don't want to.
And you can plug the podcast.
I would seriously. Are they still accepting applications?
I think so.
Are 37 people running for president now in the DNC?
Just technically 23.
You mostly just hear they're doing it like sheep now with the cattle prods and just in big pens, all just with frappes. Just it's a weird scene that's going on right there. But we'll talk more about that next week, Nick.
You said horror, and it reminded me of it. So.
So before we wrap up horror, I just wanted to say that I mentioned it probably hasn't aired yet by the time that this is going to be on, but we talked about Haunting of Hill House last week when I was on the podcast.
It will have aired by the time. This is episode 99.
Yeah. So
you're
so
listening. For those of you looking at your screen, you're listening to episode 99. Don't worry about when it was recorded.
But Nick, you haven't watched any of it yet, have you?
I did. I just started it.
Okay.
So good.
So I love that show. I think it's amazing. I just finished it this morning. I got up at 4:30 and rode 30 miles on the exercise bike, and the whole time I'm sitting there watching it, I'm like, I know that a kid is going to wake up at some point. It was thundering and lightning outside, so my whole room was intermittently lit by flashes of light while this show was playing out in its last 2 episodes. And so I was like, I'm going to get the shit scared out of me by one of my kids. I know it. And
Luna.
It was.
No, wait. So we got through the end, and I put the bike back in the garage, made their lunches. It was like 6:05. I was like, I can't believe they're still asleep. Grabbed my workout bag, went back to the chair in the living room and stuck it down. And all of a sudden, arms and legs came out from under the chair and stretched out in all directions and goes, and all I hear is, "Hello, Daddy." And I go, "Jesus fucking Christ!" And I jump back. And I flip out. I'm like, what? what? And Luna just hops up. She's like, "Good morning," and I was like, I start cracking up. I was just like, I knew it was going to happen. And
of course it was Luna. Of course it's Luna.
I thought I had cleared the hurdle. I thought I'd gotten over it. She was underneath the chair. Arms. It's dark. It's pitch black.
And she's very gangly. So
and legs start coming out from under the chair. And just, hello, daddy. Like, and then all I hear is my wife laughing in the next room because she knows exactly what happened.
We literally were talking about this like 2 nights ago.
And it happened. It happened.
Hey, Ben, all I can say is payback is sweet.
If Luna became a Children of the Corn, I think I'd be most afraid of her capability.
I had been riding for an hour and 27 minutes. I did a 34-mile ride that morning. My heart rate did not get that high at all until my daughter freaks me out.
Listen, Ben, we said this before. You have a children, just one. You have twins. One of them is not a children, but Luna's she's going to kill you. It's going to happen.
She's going to kill somebody.
All right, so we have done our odds. Let's hop on over to our evens. We went 2, 4, or 6. Ben,
let's go 6.
The category is sci-fi. Nick, why don't you lead us off on sci-fi, please?
You may not have this, Dad.
Wait, I don't. Yeah, well, I can figure something out.
I don't think Ben's ever mentioned the movie Alien on the podcast before, has he?
Wish you had let me know. I would have done the. I'm not saying it's Alien. But it's Alien.
It's only the greatest horror movie of all time. But
There it is. Yeah. I think when we already talked about Blade Runner. And Alien, obviously. I think those are kind of the go-tos. 2001, if you want to go back to Kubrick. But the movie that I have now kind of come to watch once a year is Ex Machina.
Yeah.
And it really
so good.
Truly encapsulates real sci-fi. There's 2 types of sci-fi. There's the abyss sci-fi, and there's Ex Machina sci-fi. There's the Black Mirror sci-fi. There's the sci-fi that's not in the too distant future. And in a lot of ways, movies like that are getting scarier and scarier for me than the real popcorn space alien parts of sci-fi. There's lots of avenues to explore in the sci-fi genre in a more realistic way that are arguably as scary.
And do you know that it's funny because I almost was going to I knew I had a feeling you were going to do Ex Machina. One of the reasons I picked 28 Days Later is it's written by Alex Garland, who wrote and directed Ex Machina, you're dead. It is a chilling, amazing piece of sci-fi material. What about you, Ben?
Can I guess yours?
Can you guess mine?
Yeah.
You might get this
Galaxy
right. Yeah,
Quest.
go ahead and guess.
Primer?
No.
See, I didn't say
Galaxy
Primer because
Quest.
I thought you were going to say Primer.
I picked similar to Nick, even though it is somewhat alien invasion. But I picked District 9.
It's Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest is
too much comedy.
So good. You're not wrong at all on that. And that also we've talked about that a gazillion times. District 9 we've talked about. Skirted around it, but District 9 for me, why I like it as a sci-fi film is the same as kind of Ex Machina. I like that it is grounded in parallels to what's going on in the world. I like that it's a guy that grew up during apartheid, setting it in South Africa, and basically mirroring what's going on with that. I mean, it mirrors our current political state right now as far as border crossings and people coming over and how you're dealing with foreigners and a lot of things like. There's a lot that it does
they
really,
treated
really
the
well.
aliens a little nicer, though.
They did not so much feeding them cat food.
Yeah, you're taking everything I'm saying literally today, Matt. What's going on?
I don't know. It's the delay. I don't know. No, I think Sharlto Copley delivers maybe the best first screen performance I've ever seen. Literally carrying the entire.
I knew your prompts were smart.
Yeah, it is, but everything about it. I mean, the prong Christopher is it's just so funny that it comes down to that. They've given them these American human names. Like it is for me, it is perfect sci-fi. It's got great tech. It's got great things that expand on it. Awesome action set pieces.
And what a great experience for us seeing it the first time.
Oh, man.
So we saw it before the movie came out, and then Neil Blomkamp and Sharlto Copley came out and and talked after
And
the
you
movie.
asked them about shooting on the red camera.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah, so this was back in 2007, 2008.
And the crowd
or
lost
2009.
their mind.
Everyone went,
No. I asked this really obscure, weird question because I noticed
That's not like you.
they shot everything on the red. And I still remember because he actually kind of came back to me and was like, well, we didn't shoot the whole movie on red. We shot all the documentary stuff on Sony, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, oh, yeah. But he was like, well, yeah, the red was adaptable. It was, doing what we wanted to do. So,
well, I remember, and the other person that was there with us, that Casey will appreciate, is my old roommate with Casey, Howard Goldfarb. And Howard after it was like, what the hell is your friend talking about with this red camera? What is this? What does this guy know? He's like, this guy's like a genius or something. Like, Howard's not a dumb guy. He does this weird New York accent. He's like, what the hell is this red camera? I don't know what the hell he's talking about. It's ridiculous. But now, what about you, Ben? Do you have a good sci-fi in here that's not aliens or alien related?
or Primer.
Or Primer?
Actually, I have a strange one, I'm going to say, which is my wife's favorite sci-fi movie, I think, which is The Fifth Element.
You think?
I think it's her favorite movie.
Wait,
the genre.
Beth, what do you think about it?
And it's one of Ben's too. Don't.
Well, let's ask Beth. What do you think about your movie?
I love it.
Okay. She does like it.
I thought she was going to penetrate it deeply.
No. I mean, her full review is
Designed to penetrate.
No, we're not going to do that. Okay, no.
No, the only reason why my whole criteria for sci-fi is you have to build the world and you have to exist within the world without it feeling false, which is why Blade Runner, I think, is one of the perfect sci-fi movies. But
it doesn't have Chris Tucker, which is your fourth rule.
It doesn't have. Yeah.
Coming.
Oh, shit, coming. Yes. So I figure I had to bring up the
Ruby
element.
Rod rule.
Yes, the Ruby Rod character is obviously divisive among.
I have a genuine question for. I don't think we've ever necessarily discussed it between the three of us. And Scott, have you seen The Fifth Element?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely, Ben. I'm Ben's father. I was made to watch it.
Ben, fan of Ruby Rod or not a fan?
I'm a fan.
Nick?
Come on.
Okay, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Fan.
Oh, yeah, I'm a fan too. Scott? It's okay to say you're not a fan.
Yes, yeah.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Ruby Rod.
God damn it. Too easy, drill sergeant. I Fifth Element to me is very much like I felt about Guardians of the Galaxy. Like I felt like I was dropped into this amazing world, and it all makes sense.
It built its own world and exists within its own world, and it does a really good job within that world, and that's good enough for me.
Absolutely. How about you, Scott?
Yeah, I'd have to go Alien and 2001.
Well, now we know where Ben gets it.
No, I mean 2001 is
is
iconic and extraordinary, and
Aliens
just incredible.
We've never talked about it before on this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, what is funny? So I had
That
before
2001 is the hard sci-fi.
Yeah.
What was
It's the
Martin
thinking.
Starr's character in Party Down? He was an aspiring
yeah, I know
sci-fi
exactly.
writer.
Yeah.
And anytime someone asks, "Oh, you're a sci-fi writer," it's like, "No, I only deal in hard sci-fi, the stuff that's mind bending and science based."
What is funny about this? Because I was kind of curious if this would happen organically or not. But Ben, you and I have had this discussion before. But I knew a guy I went to high school with that was a few years younger than me. I was friends with like my younger friends. I kind of knew that I knew when I got out of school and we're all out of school and started hanging out together. He was like a big film guy. He was going to go to film school, and he has gone on to do like film production and do work out there. And so he had it like when he was in his full, like, I don't know what year it happens. You guys went to film school. I don't know what year it is you become insufferable, but there's at least a year where you're insufferable human beings to anyone else that's not in film school, where your opinions are canon. And
I think we call that life.
Yeah,
I was about to say.
So
that's from like 18 to 38 or whatever.
So this guy,
almost there.
So this guy got once he got his like taste of Kubrick, he started like the deep dive into Kubrick, and then so his thesis essentially was every genre's best example has been done by Kubrick.
You've told me
I've
about
told
this
you this,
before,
right?
yeah.
So it's funny because we've had 2 show up tonight on the podcast, 2001 for sci-fi and Shining for horror. And that was his thesis.
I agree with my father. I vehemently disagree as The Shining as the best horror example, but we can get to that on another podcast.
I'm just saying it's there. And I went away from what I was going to choose for our next category, which is going to be comedy. And what I wanted to talk about probably would have been
Dr. Strangelove,
but I'm not going to do it. But I will say my comedy is another one that's literally sitting right next to it on my poster on the wall. And we've hit on it a little bit, but I really, as I racked my brain, I could not think of something that hit everything I want in a comedy more than Blazing Saddles. I think that Blazing Saddles,
but is it a good representation of all comedies as a genre?
I think. Okay, I'm going to give you a checklist. All right, let's say we have 10 items that go into a comedy.
I like that question, by the way.
All right, yeah, I think you're not wrong in the question.
I'm just saying.
I'm going to back it up.
Bit there.
So I'm going to back it up here. Right. All right. Number 1, does it have slapstick? Yes. Yes, it does. We have literal pie fights in Blazing Saddles. Number 2, does it have wordplay and banter between characters? Yes, 100%. Hedley Lamar is a joke in it about getting sued by Hedy Lamar because they can't say the name in it. Does it have actors playing straight roles that wind up being comedic in it? Yes, 100%. You've got almost everyone in that movie is playing straight, but it is funny in the situations that they find themselves in. I mean, it hits, for me, the first fart jokes put on film exist in Blazing Saddles. It is the quintessential. It is 100% true. It was the first time, because of the code, the damn ratings code, they had an entire scene of them farting around the campfire, which the studio was like, no, you can't do this. We don't allow that. We don't allow that fart to happen on film. But Blazing Saddles is, for me, 100% a perfect comedy. And even better than that, it was nominated for Oscars, which never happens with a comedy. Madeline Kahn nominated for Best Supporting, nominated for editing. It is oddly enough,
it only gets better and less problematic with age.
no, and it 100% stands up. Listen, you can't make that movie today, but that movie, for the time that it is made in, works 100% because there is zero malevolence in any one of those jokes. The only time words are being used in that are to make fun of the people using those words. Right. That's what I love about that movie. It is so pro being anti-racist that it is everyone that's a jerk in it. Also, you've got a guy that literally punches out a horse. I mean, how is that not comedy in one just simple scene of a guy decking a horse? It's a perfect comedy.
Nick, what in the wide world of sports is going on?
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
Actually, Dad, what do you think from a comedy standpoint? What's your favorite?
And somebody better punch a horse in it.
I don't know. I mean, I think of so I loved, Matt, your what you were describing there. I mean, the way I think about a comedy is what lines have I remembered through the course of my life
that's good
that come out of those movies that you use with your friends time and time again.
Nick, if it were you and me, it would be Wet Hot American Summer, I think.
I mean, it would, because I quote the outtakes to that more than any other comedy.
Yeah, I know.
So, Peter Sellers, I mean, in Return of the Pink Panther, does your dog bite? No, my dog doesn't bite. And then he gets bitten by the dog. I thought you said your dog doesn't bite.
That's not my dog.
That's not my dog.
That's a good little impression there, Scott.
I mean, it's just awesome. But, Monty Python, Airplane. I mean, I still do, we've got to get these people to a hospital. Oh, what is it? Oh, it's a big building with a lot of, patients. But,
Scott, you're a headmaster. You really should get those people to the hospital. I know you like the joke, but that's very dangerous.
Right. But, Anchorman. Elf,
I am serious. Don't call me Shirley.
Yes. So, I mean, there's a long list of extraordinary movies. But, I mean, Ghostbusters would end up being my all-time favorite. So,
how about you, Nikki?
Yeah, it's really hard to go against Ghostbusters, and that's another one that could be many different genres.
Comedy,
if you want to.
Yeah, I thought Ben
If
would
you want to
balk on
split
those.
hairs, you know.
Yeah, I'll still always balk on that, and I'll still say it's not a comedy. But
Ghostbusters is not a comedy.
no, it's not a comedy.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I go comedy on that. I definitely think it is. But that's the great thing about Ghostbusters. Everyone takes a different takeaway,
It's true.
genre wise.
That's
You know,
the
I
reason
think
why
it's-
it's a classic.
I think it's a romance.
you argue hard enough, Ghostbusters hits all those notes. You know.
Yeah.
But you know, there was another good one, Matt. When you bring up, basically for me, and coming back to what I said before about like, if this is a genre episode about a movie that kind of represents the entire genre as varied and you know different as that landscape can be, I kind of go back to the Zucker and I go back to Brooks and you know Airplane and Naked Gun and Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein. I think those are, and throw Animal House in there too. That sort of created the you know the A-list Hollywood comedy movie, and everything I feel like kind of derived from that.
Yeah, and
mutated.
And I think the one thing that I like, one of the reasons Blazing Saddles really like popped to the top of the list, because I thought about Young Frankenstein as well, but I felt that what Blazing Saddles has that a lot of them necessarily don't have is it has both the slapstick silly stuff and a lot of satire, so that you can show that movie to like 30 people, and there can be people that just like to watch like people fall down and things go boom and blah 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 blah. You watch people that want like a really good satire. Everyone winds up like kind of happy at the end of that one. How about you, Benny?
My dad already mentioned it, but I think Monty Python and the Holy Grail is the best comedy of all time. And that's the reason it covers my 5 things, which is it's farcical, referential, tangential, intellectual, and historical. It has
all the alls.
It is the very model of a comedy.
Yes, it has 5 different levels where it's
And it has farting. You know, it's got fart in your general direction.
Well, so is Blazing Saddles for that.
Yeah, I mean, it only had it after Blazing Saddles blazed the trail.
What year did Blazing Saddles come out? Because
70.
Holy Grail came out in 75.
So Matt, are you saying
74 Blazing Saddles?
So just barely beat it out.
Matt, are you saying Blazing Saddles is your pick for comedy over Princess Bride?
Yeah, I think Princess Bride is more of an adventure comedy than it is a comedy.
I'm with you.
I tried to go by the rules that we want. What is it is most, so it's a reason why you're right by I think, Nick, you say that Ghostbusters is not, for me, a quintessential, is not the best, a perfect example of a comedy movie, because it is not, it's in enough different genres that I can't call it a full out, straight out comedy. Blazing Saddles, definite comedy. Princess Bride, there's a little bit of romance, there's a little bit of whatever. It's a parody of westerns, but it exists outside of the parody.
Parody and comedy.
It does a little bit of
genres to me.
Right, I see what you're doing
and
there.
And that's part of the, I will say that's part of the challenge of this show, because I've got 4 or 5 movies that didn't fit into any one genre that I.
You have your son to thank for that.
Yeah.
Womp womp.
Yeah, well,
and it been up to me.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was going on? Oh, I'm sorry, that was my horror movie. Just kidding.
I can feel the tension from all the way over in Los Angeles.
He gave me a look. He did give me a look. I don't like that look. All right. So we have done action. We've done comedy. We've done drama. We've done horror. We've done sci-fi. One left
Puppet
to go.
Puppet movie. What's your vote for puppet movie?
Well, it's suspense.
It's a three-way tie for me between Muppets Take Manhattan, Nick the Feebles.
No,
and
let's do it quick.
It's suspense puppet movie, and it's Puppet Master.
Let's do it quick.
It's Muppets Take Manhattan. That's got to be the best.
Nick, you look good in that Georgia hat.
Oh my god! All right, so we're on our last one.
Here, I'll tell you right now. Suspense right now, because there's going to be no argument. It's a dumb thing for me to even bring up. North by Northwest, Alfred Hitchcock. It's the best suspense movie of all time.
But you don't like Hitchcock. I'm very confused about your stance on Hitchcock. I always get the feeling you talked about not liking Hitchcock, but you bring him up in a familiar way often.
I think that Hitchcock is overrated. That doesn't mean I don't love some of his movies. North by Northwest is my favorite Hitchcock movie.
Okay, it's a great movie. I agree. Yeah, no arguments. How about you, Scott?
I'm going to go old school with you here. The Conversation,
Oh,
1974,
so good.
with Gene Hackman. That
Man,
messed-
I miss Gene Hackman.
Yeah, that was really, really good, and that'll still. I mean, I watch it today. That'll still mess me up.
Best sound design of all time.
Is that right?
I mean, in my opinion.
Yeah, very cool movie.
How about you, Nikki?
Jaws.
Jaws. It's a very good choice.
I think it's
Wait, is this suspense?
I think it's a suspense movie more than it is a horror movie.
Oh, okay. I thought for sure Ben was going to disagree with me.
No, I 100% agree with Nick.
And,
Wow.
and it's funny, and I think Jaws is more of an adventure movie, akin to
come on,
Castaway. I'm not lying at all.
A ragtag group of people set off on an adventure.
And I'll give you my one example of why I think that, and it's in the score. I think the score has all of these undertones of the dun dun dun, but then when they're out in the sea, it's bum 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 bum, and they're on this big boating adventure. And what kind of great things will happen to them in the sea? And then they're very bad. It's very bad things that happen in the sea.
Sound
But
like the John Williams dad, that John Williams sketch.
I think the only reason I went against that in horror is I felt it was much more of a family drama and an adventure, and then there's a little bit of this shark thing that's going on in it.
Well, that's just it, Matt. There's a little bit of the shark thing.
True.
It's based on waiting for that first glimpse of the shark and using it sparingly. It's more about when's it going to come back. Is Ray Scheider going to hit that gas?
Yeah, you're correct.
Roy Schneider.
Roy Scheider.
Jones. No, it's Roy Scheider.
Roy Scheider.
God, man, he's really terrible about casting these movies.
Speaking of Roy Scheider, I've got to ask a question. Where would Marathon Man
that's a good movie.
fit in this? Would it be
Suspense?
suspense or action or what?
I think it's suspense.
Yep. That's a great movie.
Or
guys.
drama.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. There's an uneasiness
Great movie.
about that. No, I think you're right, Nick. Jaws can be in 100 different genres, and it will work in just about all of them, which is a sign of a great movie.
Do you think that after he killed Jaws, that's when he decided he wanted to be the head of Sequest?
Jesus.
First of all,
on that note,
first of all, you named the shark Jaws. Oh, Nick froze. Nick froze on his greatest joke. I think we lost Nick. He is. Wait, I've got to get a picture of this before it stops, because this might be the greatest end to. I'll share my pick, but I just
it's like the
have
end of
to.
a MASH episode.
It's so
freeze frame.
Perfect. That is so funny. He says, he said mic drop. Oh, he did. He actually pulled out, I believe. That is kind of amazing.
That's what she said.
That's what she said. So I'll finish this off. Okay, that's what she said also. But I'm going to finish off on suspense. This almost made my drama list. And I realized halfway through there's no way this is drama. This is 100% a suspense film. It's just staring at Nick, frozen up there, just looking. It is very. I need video for this to fully let him know what's going on. But yeah, my pick is right now is a movie called Prisoners by Denis Villeneuve. And man, I really wanted it to be a drama, but I'm like, no, it really is very much a mystery,
it's a
suspense movie.
Yeah.
And it won out over Nightcrawler, which was going to be my other idea on the suspense side of just a movie that checks all those boxes.
Yeah.
But I think Prisoners is great, partially because it's one of the most stacked casts that has ever been. I mean, you've got literally 4 Oscar winners, 3 Oscar nominees in your main speaking roles in that movie. It's kind of insane.
It's unreal.
But it is if you've not seen Prisoners, I don't want to spoil anything from it. I won't say much more than it is.
So good.
There's a similar examination of 28 Days Later of what happens when you push. First of all, like the cycle of abuse and what happens when you push someone to an extreme. How far do they go with it?
Yeah.
And they do a phenomenal job with that movie. But I think that will wrap us up. We did lose Nick for The Last of Us. I believe I will try to pull Nick's image from this into the
I
cover
think
art.
it should be on the cover art.
The
That
cover
needs
art
to-
for the episode. 'Cause
That
it's-
needs to live forever.
He has the most shit-eating grin I have ever seen in my life, and just I don't think
He's wearing a Georgia hat.
I don't
Right.
think. I mean, maybe he's paused the call. I don't know if that would be even better. But I don't know if he knows that it froze just on his like greatest moment of all time. It's unbelievable.
It looks like Freddie Mercury wearing a Georgia hat.
So ridiculous. But first of all, let's thank Scott Wilson so much for stepping in
thanks.
tonight and sharing some great movies with us. We hope you enjoy listening to this one. Thanks for calling in. We'll be I don't even know when this one is airing, but this is episode 99. So the next episode you guys listen to is going to be our big 100th episode. I don't know what's going to happen on that show yet. We've got some things planned. We may just audible a few things, but it'll be listenable and fun for all involved. Thank you so much for listening to the New Wave podcast, and we'll talk to you next time. Cheers.